Um, so I think we could start by approving the minutes um, from the last two meetings. Is any, they're attached to the agenda. Does anybody have a motion for that?
I'll second.
Yes, it is.
All right. And approving the agenda is always on here, and I think that's helpful. Just wish I could, there you all are. Okay, I was only seeing one person, that wasn't helpful. Okay, so and I think it's just good just to see how people feel about it, if there's anything that you see missing or something else you want to discuss, or if you're okay to approve it. Does anybody have any thoughts or discussion about the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
All right, and then the first thing that I wanted to talk about was, I had kind of said that I was putting the meeting on for the second Tuesday, but it needs to be officially approved by us as a group if the second Tuesday works. I know Nancy doesn't get back until 6:30 on that day. Elise, Elisa said it worked for her. And I don't know about everybody. It's just that we've heard it a whole bunch of times that community members would like to be able to attend more than one committee meeting. And so I just wanted to hear what people's thoughts were about, I don't know, changing the date or time or somehow not overlapping with the other committees. So like Beth, that's a pretty big deal for you, like your office, right? You guys are on a tight schedule and all of the things. Does a different Tuesday possibly work? What does everybody think?
Are you talking December 10th?
Yeah, kind of like going forward, just like
Yeah.
just regularly. But I need to be able to make it official and tell Jennifer and have her change all the calendars and all the everything. So there's quite a few steps.
The second Tuesday for me is always bad.
Yep.
Mhm.
I have a meeting that goes from five to 6:30, as you said.
Yep.
It's really just the 17th is a board meeting and the 24th is Christmas Eve. So we really can only do
Yeah.
the 9th.
I
10th.
mean, specifically for this month, like we're already doing it tonight. So this is our CEC meeting for this
Okay.
month.
Okay.
For sure. We won't try to schedule another one. But then it'd be kind of moving forward after that. I don't know.
That's what you need to do. Please do it.
Oh, well, I mean, there's Mondays, there's Wednesdays, there's earlier, there's later. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea what everybody's schedules look like. I really can't do Mondays now. So I don't know. I just know that I wanted to us at least brainstorm a little bit and see if there was. And so it would never be the third Tuesday. Maybe a Wednesday. Maybe instead of the first Tuesday, it's the first Wednesday of every month. How does, is that something we think people think, yeah, worth considering?
I think the first Wednesday is the 1st of January.
So probably not that one.
Here's a crazy idea.
Yeah.
What if we did the 4th Tuesday? Because that would give community members a week to process the board meeting, and then we could talk about it. Cool.
Cool. Awesome. And that would give us time if we're planning something to happen before the next
Yes.
board meeting, just gives us that extra week in between. So I love it. Yeah. So just would somebody want to make a motion to move our board meetings to the fourth Tuesday of the month?
So moved.
Okay. And then Barb, are you the second for me? Are you the second in my minutes?
Barb, you're on mute. We still can't hear you.
The
We can't
fourth,
hear you.
the fourth Tuesday of January, there's a school board meeting I have.
Yep, because we have a,
We could do Wednesday. The
Let's
29th.
let's try to help Barb get unmuted.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you.
okay, okay.
Okay, I
How do-
couldn't hear what you were saying. I guess these didn't work very well. So could you repeat what you were asking me, please?
We were considering the fourth Tuesday.
Right.
It is true though that when we have a conflict with the third Tuesday for our board meetings, that we do switch them back and forth
Mhm.
between the third and the fourth Tuesdays. And then so Beth offered Wednesdays.
I'm good for Wednesday.
Yeah, I think it's just a week by, it'll be fine.
It'll be
As
fine.
long as I know far enough in ahead.
Exactly.
Ahead of time, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so should we do which Wednesday of the month is preferable?
Let's do the first Wednesday, so it's just a day.
Day after the other
Mhm.
committee meetings. Okay. And then from now on, there'll be plenty of notice and get everything out and do all of that and make sure everyone knows. And that'll open up attendance for community members at the finance committee meetings and all of the other good work that's happening. And for us, sometimes even when our work is overlapping with them and we're planning together, I sometimes feel like I could be more in the loop about what other committees are doing. Okay, awesome. So that was by Meredith and seconded by Barb.
Could you say it again? What?
Moving a motion to move community engagement committee meetings to the first Wednesday of every month.
Okay, and you're aware that in January, that's the 1st of January.
Yes. So, I mean, what we've always done is say there's a school vacation, which that would be, I imagine, a school vacation day, correct? The first, yes. So whenever there's a school vacation, you shift it a week later. So we could say with exception made for
Okay.
school vacations.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, because that'll just keep happening.
Right.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So thank you for that. The next discussion item, actually, it was a great idea from one of our committee members. And then tossing it around a little bit, thinking back and forth, and I'm gonna take some notes about what people are thinking here. It's a discussion of a community engagement committee Facebook page. And so for me, some of the purposes I saw was Front Porch Forum is great. There is an awful lot of people on Facebook that may not be on Front Porch Forum, and we're not always going to get in the paper. it's just another link and outlet for us to share. I mean, the highlights, how we get the superintendent reports that have so much information, kind of a lot to post on Front Porch Forum. You can't format it, you can't use bullets, unorganized, rather than, hey, whoever, it's a little more, it just feels like it could be a little more accessible in one place maybe, but I know the MAUSD website does that too. So anyway, I'm swirling it around, and maybe Meredith, you could take it from here and also take some people's opinions and kind of see where we land with this. New idea.
Sure. So my thought in proposing this is we've heard from a couple of meetings that our community wants to be heard and they want to be engaged. And I think the best way to do that is to go to where our community is. And I know that there's a lot of thoughts and feelings about the toxicity of social media. So I think anything that we did would need to be regulated and moderated. But I see there being a huge value in being able to get ahead of messaging by telling our own story. So for example, in our board meeting that we just had last week, where we didn't go home until 11:30 at night and had lots of discussions about budget and RIFs and central office staff. Just being able to send a quick summary out on Facebook and say, thank you all for attending. Excited to continue the communication, and then maybe just open it for some comments that we can moderate and approve. So at the very least, people are feeling like they're being heard and feeling like they have a direct connection to us. Yeah, what are other people's thoughts?
I think it's a great idea, Meredith, especially if I don't have to be the moderator. But, you know, it could get dicey, obviously, but, I think it's a great idea. And, I just, have to, correct one thing that you said. That is because I know there's already there's been misunderstanding. There haven't been any reductions in force.
You're correct.
The board is, as the superintendent is discussing the possibility of reductions in force. He's let people know that they might be facing a reduction in their own jobs. And he did that verbally and on purpose, person by person, so that people would not hear it and misunderstand it. That he wanted people to know first, but it's absolutely potential. Nothing's been decided about that yet. And the board has asked the superintendent to go back and look at other possibilities for reductions in administrative or superintendent's office positions to see what might be possible in order to minimize the number of positions, kid-facing positions that have to be cut. So we just really need to make sure that the message about that is over and over. When you say RIF and you don't qualify it's not your fault, but we just want to always qualify it until we know what's a done deal. I mean, the tax commissioner's December 1 letter just came out yesterday. And that is one of the shifting sands, and there will be others as well. So anyway, but all that being said, I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Nancy, and 100% agree. I should have been more clear that the discussion was about potential RIFs because no RIFs have gone out. So thank you for correcting me on that.
I think that conversation that just happened is an example of what we could engage with on the Facebook page, right?
I
Like that
agree.
kind of clarifying, asking questions, kind of work through stuff together.
I wonder about the ability, whoever manages this, to take down posts that don't fit in the parameters of the intent of our group. And I see that as definitely being a task that needs to be monitored regularly.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I think Meredith is anticipating that the moderator will review the comments before they're allowed to be posted.
Okay. Mhm.
But I mean, I think that also, I've never been a moderator, but I also am, I'm actually in a group that has a moderator or a couple of moderators. And the moderator often reminds people that there are ground rules and reminds people what the ground rules are.
And I'm thinking we can all be moderators. Being a millennial mom, I'm literally always on Facebook, so I'm happy to be main moderator if we need one, but I'm thinking all of us can take on a moderator type role.
But someone has to decide what goes up and what doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Meredith?
Yeah,
Right, and if we have ground rules, I mean, like the ground rules that we have that we designed as a group for our engagement meetings, those same ground rules could be applied to the page. And that would help whoever is on there at that time moderating to make decisions, right? Because you can kind of look to those and say, and
Yes.
judge it against those ground rules.
Well, I think, I'm looking at the group norms now. Let me just see. Take an inquiry stance, ground statements in evidence, assume positive intentions and take responsibility for impact, stick to protocol and hear all voices. Well, I mean, I think this is a start for thinking about what the ground rules could be, but I mean, I think it needs to go a little farther than that. I think we want to, for example, somehow say, this isn't a place to talk about particular people. That is, it isn't, I don't know what's a way to say that, but you know what I mean?
respect confidentiality, maybe.
Yeah,
Right.
there's,
Supposing somebody wants to get on and say mean things about the superintendent or about a teacher or about a principal, we have to have the right wording for this, but we don't want to allow that at all. Right?
yeah, I can look and search for it. We did at some point get a little more thorough before one of our last community engagement. It might have been the virtual roundtable where it
I
was,
can send those.
yes, please, thank you. And because it did go into, I'm pretty sure it was like discuss the idea, not the person. I think it was a little deeper.
So I don't know that we want to do the wordsmithing on that now, as long as we just agree that someone's gonna draft something for us to look at to see if we've covered it. And
Agreed.
when someone, that's a question for me, because I've never done this before. I mean, I've never been a moderator. If someone says something that's not appropriate and you're not going to post it, what do you write to them and say, sorry, this doesn't fit with our guidelines, or what, how does that work?
I don't know. I think they'll get a notification from Facebook saying your post has been rejected. Yeah,
I think we'll want to look into that, Meredith, because we
yeah.
don't want to, I mean, I would want people to get a more personal message than that if we could do it. I don't know how it works, so.
I'm happy to direct message anybody if I thumbs down a post and just say, hey, it doesn't fit this guideline.
Okay.
And do you think we want to have a separate Facebook than the school one? Or we can
So
just,
my-
yeah, we don't want to post on MAUSD Facebook.
The thing with MAUSD Facebook is that comments have been turned off and there's no ability for people who aren't MAUSD to be able to post into that, which, I mean, if we wanted to allow comments, moderated comments, and allow moderated posts to show up, I think that could serve our purpose of an avenue of two-way communication between us and the community in a way that they like to communicate. But I don't know. What do you think, Beth? Do you think that's something that the MAUSD admins would be open to?
Do we need to get permission to do this? That's what's running through my head is,
Probably.
yeah, do we need to go to the full board and give them a proposal for this particular idea? I think that might be it. So I think whatever we decide, we may need to get all our ducks in a row before we actually give that proposal so that it can be seen in a positive light. And assure, because it seems like they put stopgaps in place for the MAUSD Facebook page. And there's probably a reason for that. And I know why we want to do what we want to do. And I'm trying to think of, is there might be a way for Facebook to handle that we're not aware of, because I really see it as snowballing, and when things are going to get contentious, and they will, when, voting time comes closer and closer, my concern is that whoever's, it might be you, whoever's moderating, is going to have their hands full. It might become a full-time job because of whatever happens. It may not be that, but that is a concern of mine, and I'm just wondering, I don't know. But
I think that's
just
a
because
very
of-
valid concern. And I think, first of all, we should have multiple moderators. So I think you, me, Liz, Kristen should all be moderators, and I'm happy to do most of the moderation. And I think things are gonna get contentious on Facebook regardless. So either they're contentious and we can control our messaging, or they're contentious without us being there. So that's kind of my, I work in sales in my day job and think about this a lot.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that it's useful to think about, I love this idea, Meredith, and I was so impressed with the virtual roundtable and how it worked. And
Thank you.
I mean, I just thought it was spectacular. And I wonder if this Facebook piece is maybe what we're talking about is a general set of strategies here for engaging the community. And one of them is this Facebook page. But you are such a good facilitator and experience, clearly, that
Thank you.
that a Facebook post from us or from you can pose a question and invite people to respond to a particular question. It doesn't have to be just kind of a free-for-all or just responding to information that we're giving out to the group. I mean, I think there are lots of ways that we could handle this piece, but I've got to say, I also think that the roundtable worked so well. It just about brought tears to my eyes, and it got scared.
Bring tears to mine.
I got scared a little bit because I didn't realize we were going to be switching groups in that roundtable. And so, but I got to see Liz's dad, who I hadn't seen in forever, and he actually remembered me, which blew my mind. And I mean, I just thought it really went well. So I think some regular roundtables like that, virtual roundtables, might be another piece of the system that we're building.
I just want to piggyback on your thoughts. I do like the idea. I'm throwing these thoughts in there just to kind of anticipate what could be happening so that we can put up our guard or whatever. Just make sure it doesn't happen. So, but I love the idea, Nancy, of the question. So today we're going to think about this. Please, what are your thoughts on whatever the prompt is? And so if it doesn't fit in the parameter of the prompt, possibly, maybe then it just is rejected. Because we're not talking about that day or whatever. I mean, it's just a thought, which might be a way to guide the conversations, and get messaging out in a very subtle way.
I love that. I think that's a great idea, Barb.
Thanks. But I think it was Nancy's.
Sorry. Great
And
idea,
I know
Nancy.
that I know that Jennifer supervises or moderates the Facebook page for the district, and had to take away comments for a reason. And then we tried to add them back, and you can't keep up with it, because if a nasty comment is on there for 5 minutes, it can do some real damage. So
Yeah,
that's my worry, is that comments can also, people take screenshots of comments and then put them on their page, and it's just this whole thing, and it's it as you all know, it can get really mean. So that's just you got to be like on it, and I think Jennifer has a filter, almost a system, and eventually we just got rid of comments. So
so
unfortunately.
maybe I mean, maybe Meredith knows this system, but maybe we need, whoever's gonna explore this should look more deeply into whether you can indeed stop comments before they go on.
Agreed.
I
Because
wonder if
we can't do that, it's,
Sorry.
nobody has that kind of time, you know, to get a comment as soon as it goes on. We're all too busy for that.
Right.
I'm trying to think of a way to say this without you all thinking I'm totally nuts, which you probably think I am anyway. So,
I don't think you're nuts, Meredith.
thank you, Nancy. I appreciate you. And keep in mind, like all day, I'm a sales manager. Like all day, every day, I'm thinking about messaging and how do we message this and how do we talk about this. I am kind of, as long as we're not breaching any student confidentiality, I'm kind of okay with things getting a little bit contentious on our page because it's coming from us and our messaging. So maybe somebody says 6% increase, absolutely can't afford that. What are these people doing? It's so high, like they're driving young people out, and then somebody else comes in and they pile on and pile on and pile on and pile on and pile on. And we have 50 comments of people saying there's absolutely no way that we can stomach a 6% increase in Bristol in fiscal year 2025. It's additional information that we have to bring to the board, and we can say, hey, thank you so much for coming and communicating this with us. I hear the pain that you're feeling, and we care about you, we care about this community, so we're going to bring it up. And yeah, we had to read some mean comments about ourselves, but we let our community members know that we're listening to them too.
Well, it's one thing for somebody to say, I think the people on the board are out of their minds if they think blah, 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 blah. That's one thing. I think that's okay. But it's not okay if somebody says, I think Beth McGeorge is nuts. And when it gets personal about employees or breaches confidentiality about particular students, or that's absolutely not okay. And it's
Agreed.
partly not okay because it puts the school district in legal jeopardy.
Agreed.
Could ask Jennifer tomorrow if we can even about what it takes to do this, and then I think we should propose it to the board. Because I'm also wondering if we're doing it, I wonder if they're gonna be like, well, should the finance committee do it and the policy and governance do it, so I think, but I can ask Jennifer just to get to the bottom of the controlling of the comments, and then I'll let you know.
And I can do some additional research into
Okay.
Facebook's terms of agreement
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
see what we can do.
And I think
Yeah.
what Barb said too is, it would be good to have our ducks in a row. I've never really tried to put ducks in a row, but I'm not sure. I've seen puppies do it, but I've never done it myself. But anyway, it would be better to have those ducks quacking appropriately before we take it to the board.
I agree. I just keep wondering because I've not ever done that. I've been part of a group and I know like Moncton has a community group and I know that there is a manager and that posts will be taken down if they don't fit in whatever the parameters are that were set up. I just have and so I'm gonna say, I don't know if this is, but I know this is a small group, but Bailey Lane, who used to
Yep.
be on the board, runs that, and she does a great job. And she just kind of comes in when she needs to, and but I don't know what's happening behind the scenes or how she got there or how she does it, but she might be a great resource.
I'm in a Facebook group that has nothing to do with schools, and the moderator sometimes makes reference to posts that she took down or that she forbade from being put on, and she said, and she writes things like, one or more of you may know that someone tried to put up a post about blah 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 and it never appeared, and here's why.
I know I'm 100% certain that there is a setting on Facebook groups where you can prevent people from posting without having to approve it first. So like in the Bristol Family Center Support Facebook group, I tried to post the link to the virtual roundtable and it didn't go up immediately because somebody had to approve it. So I think
Right.
comments is what I don't 100% know, but I feel like this is a Googleable answer. So I can Google that
Sure,
right now if we
sure.
want to continue
Okay.
discussing.
So I don't know if we want to, I mean, we don't need to, I don't know that we need to, I don't know, do we want to talk about this in more detail now, or do we want to wait until we get more information?
So I see Bailey on Friday. I can ask her I can pick her brain a little bit. And
Okay.
I see, I have down for next, that's a great idea, right? Because she's on it and she does that. She does it well. But so what I have down is some highlights, and then I have for next steps that, I mean, all of us can in our own ways. That Beth and Meredith will learn more about possible controls on Facebook pages, and then we'll maybe finish this proposal at our January meeting and bring it to the board after that. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yeah.
And that'll still be before the budget, so we'll still be able to utilize it for some really important stuff, just 1 month pause, most likely. And then, because the other groups, I can see us posting a presentation that finance does, right? We could be a resource for them or an outlet to get their information out. So it's exciting. Thank you guys so
Yeah.
much.
Okay.
Right.
All ready?
Yeah, the answer to this question isn't 100% forthcoming, so I will do some research and then I'll come prepared with a proposal that we can discuss in January.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
what about the idea of regular focused virtual roundtables?
I'm all in. That was so much fun. I would love to do more of those.
Yes. So, the agenda just has reviewing our results. I'm thinking everybody maybe had a chance to look over the summaries. And then, so I think Nancy, that's right on track for the
Okay.
next discussion, right?
Great.
Planning for a series of events to be concluded by late spring. And it not necessarily, I mean, this could just be something that CEC does, a bunch like those virtual roundtables. And it's so nice to be everybody on Zoom. I can learn to do hybrid, and I get that we're gonna want some in-person meetings and all of that, but that was really successful and really accessible. So it's I'm we'll start by, that'll be my first comment here, Nancy, under that topic. And then just to set the table a little bit more is, I don't remember if I said this here before, but there is work being done with the Staff Advisory Council to come together some future long-term planning for shifts that the district, ways that we could address some of the challenges we're facing. I mean, I know, like the budget meeting kind of brought it up. It's really the goal is that we've got a staff voice piece coming in to the board about their ideas for future planning. We've got the Up for Learning, which is bringing in student voice for them to speak for themselves, what their priorities are. And I think universally, more or less, our community's priorities are to meet the needs of our students, right? Like that's kind of like, that's what we all want to do. But the community does, our communities do have a different light on that. And somehow I'd really like to present opportunities to get to maybe flush out a little bit more. So say this topic group is happening, there may be a group that studies in on what does it look like if we remain with all 5 buildings? What does it look like if we merge with Virgins? What does it look like, right? Like almost questions come up and then we get some answers to those questions because those answers are being found as we speak, right? In other groups. And it can be sought and pulled out, and just having some tough conversations so that we can bring to the board, hey, it's sister schools. I mean, for me, it's hard beyond the Levinson report because we did so much good things we had 7 community-led ideas in there, right? Like the one with the 1, 2, 3, like different grade bands in different buildings. And so that was a community thought idea. So I guess I do know that a great idea can come from anywhere, anytime. So it's got to be open to that, right? But also there were some really great ideas that were vetted and studied. So somehow what I want us to be able to bring to the board is the community voice on what ideas we have for future planning. And now a couple years out from our last conversations, have feelings shifted, have new ideas come up, are there questions that need to be answered in order to help decide between the options that have been studied? We hear a lot from our staff about the demands of the school day and what that looks like for them. So what solutions are respectful of that? I mean, those are the sort of, so this isn't an organized way for me to present this. This is just the kinds of thoughts that I'm having that I want us to, I mean, really capitalize on the results we already have and get a little deeper in the conversations, bring a little more answers to questions. I think we can do that and have something to bring back to the board of like, here's A, B, and C. This is what we heard the most. We heard the most, do this, and do this. And, you know, present that as these are some of the favorites from around the 4 towns. And technically 5 towns. I have a hard time. I still can't leave out Lincoln. Your kiddos still go to Mount Abe. It is what it is, right? We are all planning together. Frankly, Virgins and what they're doing matters to me too, right? So this really isn't a limited scope conversation in any way. But what Middlebury is doing matters. What Hannaford Career Center, I just found out that because I just joined their board. So now I'm starting to understand how intricately they're engaged with our district and the choice, even our programming affects their programming, what we offer, competing with what they offer. Like it's just wild, right? So what does this look like that's successful? And I will take notes. How do we make this happen? How do we pick some dates, advertise well? I didn't do that. I need to do that better. We'll get a lot further and get a lot more people if we have, like, we know it's happening in February, March,
Yes,
and
I
April.
just got a message
Right.
from Kristen Toy, who's trying to get into our meeting.
Oh, no. Okay, I'm sorry. There's gotta be a way to let her in. So like, we know we're doing February, March, April. We're doing something, right?
So
And
if I could comment on,
yes,
you
please.
just
sorry.
said, I was kind of like trying to merge everything you said, because you have a lot more experience than I have, and you have a lot more background. You've been on the board for longer, but I see those as topics that are incredibly important, but they could drive what the roundtables are talking about. Like maybe those are conversations that we could have as a community. But I also was wondering, as I was thinking this, is like you had said something, okay, we have staff representative, we have kid representative, we have some community, we have school board, but I'm thinking that maybe we like actively target a particular group, like, okay, this roundtable is going to have, we invite staff advisory or whatever to participate in, and make sure, and match a topic that might work for them. And then, if we have the Up for Learning, if we have the student voice, then bridge some topics that might work for that particular, demographic and the other people that show up, so that we continuously, I'm hoping to see the roundtables actually grow. And, maybe we could, I don't know, offer incentive, bring a friend. I don't know what that would be, but, but just, get to get different viewpoints. And I think that's critical. I think, the people who are on fixed income need to have a voice as well. So, just some thoughts.
Yes, yes to all of that, right? Like, there we go, right? Connect with the groups, bring in a presentation about Up for Learning at one of them, maybe, right? Okay.
Well,
Is it-
I think before we talk much more about, I mean, I thought we were talking about a set of structures that would foster community engagement. And Kristen, before you came, we were talking about what it would take to set up a moderated Facebook page. So I won't, Meredith especially and Beth are going to look into what that would take and what it would take to put together a proposal to the board about that. And we also talked about having much more frequent virtual roundtables, because that structure really worked. And Meredith is so good at putting that together. So so there was that. So I think in terms of, I think there's some other structures that we could either build or that already exist. And you've mentioned some of them. There's a staff advisory council, and I don't know if I don't know if they want to engage with the community. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I imagine that Up for Learning is going to want to engage with the community. And that is, Up for Learning may have specific material that they'll be coming up with that they'll want to engage with the community about. And so that won't be a structure, but it might be something that a virtual roundtable and maybe even a Facebook page would help them do that communicating.
Mhm.
Much as I know some of you who know me well will forgive me for saying this, but I have been saying for a long, long time, like since 2015, that we should be having school advisory councils for each of our schools. And to the extent that we have communication problems, part of it is because when we consolidated as a district, it created a communication bottleneck, and people don't feel that they're getting information very well. And they also don't feel that they're being so very well listened to. And anyway, so if we're talking about structures, but in addition to a Facebook page and frequent virtual roundtables about particular topics, not just about the budget, but other topics as well. I just have to say that school advisory councils would be an important one as well.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and start speaking. So I just got back from our select board meeting, and at the meeting, Brad and I just sort of gave an overview of the budget, and we provided them with a third iteration that Patrick had provided us with at the last meeting. Let them know, here's where we are. The yield, had been released, and all of that all of that information, kept it very high level. And kind of one of the things that was a big takeaway for me was, we talked about how, there's always, we want to stay ahead of the curve of the vote. And we want to make sure that our communities are well aware and well informed of where we are with the budget, what is happening with the budget on a regular basis. And, Brad had made a good point, and he said, whenever I see the people that make the most noise on the Front Porch Forum in a negative fashion, whenever I see them, I always say, come to the meetings. And Brad had said, we have the same, that we have a sort of a contingency of regulars from the community that come to these meetings. And it's just really frustrating when at the 11th hour, here we are in February, and all of a sudden people are all up in arms. Nothing new that we don't know about, except for Meredith. I'm really sorry. But hopefully we want to stay ahead of what we ran into last year. So anyway, they want to have regular communication with us. They want us being the collective select board. Just speaking specific to Starksboro, I'm pretty sure it would be a very common theme within each of the other towns. They want to stay ahead of it, and they want to know how they can run into people at the grocery store or whatever, and get on the correct side of the microphone, which is a term that was used before the media, before the angry posts, before everything else that happens, the gaslighting and everything else that we experienced last year. So I'm going to have Karen McCarthy was the one that had provided that feedback. So I'm going to have her send that back to me. I'm going to get it in front of the board, for our next business meeting, because they're very valid points, and they do want to help. And you know, the thing that was, you know, kind of funny is that Amy McCormick, who's our town clerk, she said, you know, people ask questions about the budget, but it's so flippin' complicated. Who can follow it in just layman's terms in a 1 page, like 7 point, you know, document? It's impossible. So anyway, they want us to be engaged, and I would like to pose to the rest of this group that each of us school board members make it happen to get to a select board meeting like soon, before anything, you know, we want to get ahead of this. And that was just, it was a very impassioned, you know, point that was made. And I took it to heart. So I think, you know, sort of in the same vein as community advisories, as well as these regular open forum meetings, you know, I think we got some good momentum going, and, you know, Meredith crushed that meeting. So I think that it would be, I think it's very, very important for us to keep going and to keep that momentum going while we have it. You know, we want to have people understand what's happening, and to be straightforward.
You know what, I couldn't agree more. And I go to a lot of the board meetings, and, you know,
We didn't name
I
names,
think
Nance.
we think people don't want to see the sausage being made.
Mhm.
But I think it's really helpful to see.
I
the
totally
sausage being
agree,
made.
and I even
Because
mentioned that.
you see what the board and the superintendent are wrestling with, you know?
Exactly.
You see, look, we're talking about potential reductions in force,
Yep.
but the board is asking the superintendent to go back and look for other ways to cut and to cut the costs, so that we're cutting as few student-facing positions as possible. And so we're weighing all that, and while we're weighing it, the tax commissioner lays out his letter, and we get a new information about the yield, the sand shift, and, you know, I mean, I think it's helpful to give people a glimpse of the complexity.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this was. And I mean, you know, one of the members, like, their eyes were practically spinning, like, oh my God, well, no wonder. And people just don't understand literally how complicated it is. And it's just about impossible to follow it.
Well, and then unfortunately, the interim commissioner of education, now the commissioner of education, I guess, you know, her explanation of how the funding system works, that was pretty helpful, except then she started editorializing in it about
Right.
what should change. And that got, I mean, I found myself quite annoyed by that, but
Yeah,
there
same.
are relatively simple way. I mean, you could take that and, you know, Nate Levinson helped write that. But you just can't tell from it which parts he wrote and which parts someone else wrote.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, I think that the slide presentations that Patrick and Floyd put together for the board are useful in other venues. And it's great that you did that slideshow for them, did you?
We provided it to them ahead of time because we only had 20 minutes, which we
Okay.
went over by about 15 minutes. So,
Okay.
and that was without presenting it, because it's a lot for somebody to ingest and try to understand,
Yep.
you know, in a short period of time.
Yep. But
Yeah.
I mean, just for people to get even the punchline of, I mean, it's kind of a punch in the face line of, you know, we're cutting X million out of the budget, of the current budget, but taxes are still going to go up. How the hell can that be true? Well, it's because of the way the finance system works in the state. It's partly because the state is trying to make it equitable, you know, make the ability to fund public schools equitable across towns that have different levels of wealth. That's, I mean, that's, you have to create a complicated system to do.
exactly.
Nancy, you said earlier that that it would be impossible to describe the budget in a one pager with 7 bullet points, but I think what you just said, if we could put that on a one pager with maybe 7 bullet points after that, I think that is something that our community would understand.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I'm hearing, like, when we're thinking about our overall communication strategy, I'm hearing a lot of great things. So we need to be going to our select boards and presenting to them. We need to have a virtual roundtable strategy for the first half of 2025, maybe a Facebook group. And just thinking about what you said, Kristen, like, what if at some of our biggest Mount Abe events this winter, like basketball games or something like that, we just put one of us with a little table and a chair and a sign that says, ask me about the school board budget, and people can come up and talk to us. Like,
Mm-hmm. They might throw hot dogs at us, but
Yeah.
who cares?
Not
Tasty
like a
treats.
dunking chair, right? Not like a dunking chair.
Exactly.
Probably not in January. Maybe we can set up the dunking chair after the budget passes,
Yeah.
though.
I just wanted to add something too, is that I do like the round table, and I do like all that we're gathering information from the community. And what are we doing with it? Like, I think there
Mhm.
comes a point where we're going to have action steps. We're going to have to compile all the information, collect some themes, and present, because, we're going from the last group I was in was we're dying of 1,000 paper cuts with these little cuts in our budget to the 6% is not enough. Right? So those were just 2 huge comments that were in my breakout room.
Mhm.
But I don't know how we can compile the information, put it together, and then share the big themes. I think that's like some point we need to start doing that.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Can we
So
talk
there's
to Erin and
there's
get
the
like
whole
a
piece about how to portray the budget making and the ultimate budget that the board comes up with. But there's another part of this communication that I think is essential, and it's for people to it's for people to understand what's really going on in the schools with kids. And not just good news or bad news, but to the board is that much more, I mean, I bet we have board members who haven't been in all of our schools.
I'm sure.
I haven't.
Yep.
Mhm.
And so I just think that part of this communication isn't just about the money or what it's going to do for taxes. It's partly about, I think it was a great step, the superintendent's monthly report. That's a great step.
Mhm.
It's not enough, but let me just tell you a story. I will, and try not to cry, and I will tell it to you very quickly. But it's the kind of information that I really appreciate getting. It happens to be about my grandson. My grandson is in 7th grade. He graduated from Robinson School. He's in 7th grade. He's a great kid. I don't know if you've read this book, but there's a book that is won the National Book Award for Young Adult Fiction. It's written by the principal of Oxbow High School, who happens to be a friend of mine. And it's an absolutely fabulous book, and it's called Gather. And it's a very quick read, and it's absolutely wonderful. And it's about a Vermont kid in a Vermont community in a tricky situation, a tricky home life. And it's really in part the story of how his school, actually particular people in his school, pretty much save his life.
Wow.
And what I learned tonight, I've been giving, I love the book, and I've given it to my daughter, and I've given it to my stepdaughter. And I learned tonight that my grandson's 7th grade English teacher has assigned that as reading to his group of readers. And it makes me think, oh God, it's such good news. it's such a great book, and it's so local and it's beautifully I mean, anyway, stories like that, you know, stories like we used to hear from Mount Abraham about the personalized learning program, stories about, heck, I don't know, about what's really going on in classrooms that's working and that's hard, and that what people are trying, what, you know, what teachers are trying to do together to make things better for kids and their families. I mean, there's tons of that information, but it's not available in a
Not
broader.
not to bring it back to the Facebook page, but to bring it back to the Facebook page, I think this would be an awesome opportunity to have like a staff shout out, like a shout out Monday or something, where community members or teachers or whoever is involved in this family of MAUSD can say, I want to shout out Mrs. Smith for reading Gather with her 7th graders and instructing about the life of teenagers in Vermont. Just
Yeah,
little
yeah.
stories that might not make it into the superintendent's report, but that can share a little bit of positivity.
Yeah, that makes me think back to pre-Act 46 when Friday folders, well, I don't know, they probably still do Friday folders, but Adora used to do, you know, there was the one page that Adora would send home, you know, highlighting, you know, certain things. And, you know, even if it's something that we are able to, I mean, I don't know how much time, you know, our principals have to, you know, draft something like that, or even if it is something that is still being sent home in Friday folders, you know, something like that to share out to the broader, you know, audience via, you know, a Facebook page and also a Front Porch Forum post. You know, I think we should probably cross-pollinate those two, you know, information resources, if you will, because I think that would go over well with people.
I agree. And I also want to just circle back to what Beth said, like, what do we do with the information? I know we already have a slot on the board meeting, but maybe if we can just be really intentional about saying these are the events that we had, this is like what we're already doing, but just maybe if we just add at the end just like a thinking question for the board. If there's I don't know enough about the inner workings of boards to know if we could do a discussion question, because discussion would be great, but we would like for you, like, please read these documents. We would like you to consider this question as we're talking about potential cuts, or we would like you to consider this question as we're talking about what we're doing for cross-programming with Virgens. And also, I think the discussions that we have in the community can influence the questions that we're asking at board meetings. I mean, I was quoted in the paper asking about central office cuts, and I think the way I was trying to communicate it is that that's what we were hearing in community engagement sessions, not this is something that I personally believe in, but this is something that our community said. So I think if we're the people that are in these meetings, we can also be intentional about making sure that we're voicing what we're hearing in these meetings and the greater meetings with the board.
Yeah, and if there are questions that we want to pose to the board, you know, that's something that we can ask Erin to put in the board chair notes, like, hey, you know, these are things, you know, these two things, please come prepared to you know, share your feedback. But yeah, I think Beth makes a really good point too. Like, so we have this information, so what are we going to do with it? We need to be intentional with that information. So, you know, I think that's something, maybe that's something that we put in the chair notes for our next business meeting. Like, you know, this is a thread that we talked about. You know, we want to make this a discussion piece, open it up to the rest of the board.
Love it.
What if we thought about like maybe even pulled Aaron in at some point and
I was
thought
thinking
about
that too.
the direction that the board is going, what are the big tasks that we want to have accomplished by the end of this academic year? And how do these roundtables, Facebook page, etc., play into gaining information to get to that end? I think that that might be how we maybe could use the information that we're getting from the community. I think the community needs to know this is where we're going. This is where we need to be academically to stay in pace the rest of the state with the rest of the country. And it's, I feel like the community has direct input in that it's not just an isolated thought. It's a community that's guiding where education is going.
Hmm.
How does
I
that
love
play
that.
into what our students need to be successful? I think that's the end game anyway, but how do we get there? What do we need right now? And how do these questions provide information to get to that point?
So can we invite Aaron to our next CEC meeting?
Might be tricky depending on when the P&G meeting is, if it's at the same time, but even if it's just for the first 15 minutes or whatever it is.
We changed our
changed the
whole
time.
schedule before you came, Kristen. We're gonna
Ooh.
start meeting at your house and, no.
I'm changing my locks. I'm kidding.
Do you two live near each other?
I mean, we're in the same town, but no,
Okay.
Starksboro is a small and mighty town, but yeah, how many miles away are you from me?
I don't think you can get there from here.
No.
I don't know if we're ready for, I don't know that if we're ready.
Maybe we bring it to the board, toss it in the chair notes and say, we need your help, we need your thoughts. Let us chew on it at the next CEC meeting. And then maybe our goal at the next one is to say, all right, what do we want to ask of Aaron at the one to come?
Yeah, I mean,
Put
I
dates
don't
on
want to, pardon me, I didn't mean to interrupt. I don't want to distract anyone from passing this budget.
Mm-mm.
But I see that, this has to be multifaceted and we have to figure out how to juggle all that because the comments that we get from the community are going to be coming from different lanes and may not be only about the budget. So I think
Mhm.
that just keep that in the back of our minds.
Mm-hmm.
But I do agree that passing the budget right now is primarily what we need to do wherever we land.
Yeah.
And
So
keeping
kind
our,
of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Yeah.
So kind of synthesizing everything, it sounds like we have a whole communication strategy that we're trying to come up with as a committee. And there's three parts of it. There's how do we get information from our community to present to the board? There's how do we get information from our schools and our staff to present to the board? And then there's when we have all this information, what do we do with it? So it sounds like the things that we've discussed Facebook, we've discussed virtual roundtables, we've discussed going to select board meetings. That's on the input side, and on the output side, we've discussed
And we've discussed briefly school advisory councils.
yes, thank you, school advisory councils. And
Yep.
we've discussed school advisory councils from the input side. And on the output side, we've discussed updating the chair notes for possible topics of consideration. We've also discussed inviting Aaron to one of our meetings to talk about how we can take this all this information that we're getting and present it productively to the board. Beth, I'm curious, what else in your mind are we missing on the output strategy?
Well, we've talked about letting the sausage making be visible
Yes,
on
I
the
love
budget-
that.
the budget side.
Nancy,
Um,
I heard you were gonna create that one pager, by the way.
oh, the one pager?
I'm
Too bad,
joking.
I don't
I'm
remember
not-
what I said.
I think I'm a lot funnier than I am.
You know,
so
we're not.
I'm sorry,
we're
my
not-
joke didn't
We didn't
land.
record this, did we? We didn't turn on the record, did we?
No,
And are we supposed to? We're not supposed to?
Yeah,
Okay.
we are.
We
I
don't
thought it
have to.
automatically recorded though. We don't have
Oh,
to. We
It
want.
might be.
wait,
It's
hold
recording.
on, it
It
is
is
recording.
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 Yeah.
Yes, we're good.
Oh,
Yes.
good. Oh,
We
good.
did good.
I guess what's going through my mind is that, yeah, I still feel like we need action steps because we can collect community, and it's oftentimes the same community members, keep in mind, what the thoughts are, but when are we going to start moving forward with solution with a very tight budget? Because people right now are kind of done with, from my perspective, they're done with our school spending too much money. And it's almost a volatility that I've never seen before. So it's either I feel like it's really hard for me too, because I'm a super emotional person, but I feel like we almost need to be a little bit transactional. And be on the same page with our finance committee as well, because they're digging deep into the numbers and just really sharing all the facts. Like, why is it so expensive to run our schools in Vermont, in Mount Abe? Why, what's going on? We are doing amazing things, but I think the more that we tout that, it's just going to be like, why is it so expensive, right? Why can't I live here anymore? So that's my worry, is that if we're not like, facing the facts and being really sincere and not, what do people, I don't know.
When you
I think
say
people, I
action
just hear people are
steps,
scared. They don't have money. There's no money left for some of these families, and that's scary.
I think people need to hear both, though. They need to hear how the board is and the superintendent are working to cut costs. I've always, but they also need to hear about what we're trying to do for kids, I often think that it's a terrible situation where when it comes to be budget time, we only pretty much talk about money and taxes. And we don't hear anything at all about what the schools are trying to do and how they're trying to do it. I mean, and maybe some people only want to hear about the money stuff, but the more I know about what the schools are trying to do and what they're achieving with kids, and I don't mean on test scores, the more I feel okay about spending the money.
Beth,
Yeah,
when
I-
you say action steps, what do you mean?
I'm sorry?
Just
So-
Beth had mentioned action steps, and I was just
Right. So I
Curious,
sit on
yeah.
the advisory council. I'm on the Up for Learning Council. And we're working towards an end, like passing the budget is what we want. We want to get community feedback. We want community to know that we're listening. And yet I just want to make sure that we do something with that information and apply it. Is what I guess what I mean by that. The advisory council are really talking dollars and getting down to class sizes and schools and cost of buildings and da 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 da. And that wouldn't be next year, that'd be in a couple years. But yeah, just I guess just having an action step, like just what we're hearing in the community and synthesizing it and then going from there.
I would
Maybe.
love at every board meeting for us to be able to present findings and recommendations. And maybe that's, and again, I know the least about running a board. I don't even know if this is possible, but just to be able to say, these are the events that we had since we saw you at the last board meeting. This is a high level summary of what we heard. And as a committee, this is our recommendation for what we do with this information. Is that, Nancy, is that feasible?
I don't understand what you're saying, really. And I don't understand what Beth said.
I
Fair.
hear, what I'm hearing is, that Beth is working with the Up for Learning, the student voice. I hear that you're working with the staff and you guys are getting into the numbers and doing all of that and planning for a couple of things that could happen a couple of years out. I don't want the community to get left behind in that. So that's my input, really, is that I don't want us to not also be having those conversations. But so what do you see as the missing piece? Because it is very real and there's situations where you feel better about spending the money, and there's situations where you don't have the money to spend, right? It doesn't actually exist. So as much as you might want to have it in your home, you're turning down the heat, you're being careful, right? Like this is common stuff. Being careful. You're on a budget at the grocery store. And there's just an expectation that this is everywhere, right? And happening in all the ways. So there's just that, you can explain it, but yeah, I mean, because it's like us going as families and being like, well, I'm trying to get counseling for my kid. That's what I'm trying to do with the money at home, right? Like I'm trying to, make Christmas special, right? Like we're all trying to do really special things with our monies, no matter where it's being spent, right? And if we're not keeping up with this conversation about things that could potentially change, and why or why not? Because at the end of the conversation, we could be saying, this is why we don't want it to change. And this is what we're willing to have it look like in order to save money and not have our building structure change, right? Like the number of buildings that we use or the district or something like that. Because it all does come down to town vote. And I remember you saying at one point, like in the beginning several years ago, yes, the advisory councils, I think it's more of a group conversation than individual school at this point. I think that's part of why that's a challenge. And how do we catch up? How do we not leave the community behind? What if, so I remember mentioning that if it were the right thing to do, that communities would say yes. If it was what students needed and it was in their best interest, that a community would say yes to making a change in the use of that building in their school, right? And so we have fully empowered towns and we have a fully empowered district to decide whether or not we merge and whether or not a school remains open. So
Liz, I'm sorry, but if you are going to be pushing that agenda, I need to not be part of the group.
right. So what I want to push is that we're having the conversation, not pushing that, right? Like I'm not saying write what I'm saying down on a piece of paper, but I am saying we need to talk about it. That's what we've done it before, and the result that we came to was that it's not going to happen. And
Well,
that's
if
maybe the
if
same
we're
result.
going to talk about it, then it needs to be in a structured way. We need to bring the research to bear on what a small community school does for kids and communities, and also what the effects of closing small rural schools are on kids and communities. But that isn't on the agenda tonight, really. So
Right.
I'm not sure what we're trying to do right now in this meeting.
I would like to plan the next virtual roundtables and some topics and how we want to go about it. And I think that we've got a lot going on in this conversation to help us get us there. And I want the diversity in this group. This group wouldn't be this group without you. And if I we have to be comfortable, as we always have been, having a different perspective on these things. And so with both of us here, with all of us in this room here, with strong feelings about different things, this is like an example. So we present a meeting, if we plan it together, hopefully we're being representative of voices in our communities that want to have space to speak up. Right? And so we need you. Please, go ahead. Sorry.
Just Barb's had her hand up for a little while.
Yes, Barb.
I'd like to go back to actionable items. And I think that before we go off in the weeds, and I think that we could do that easily. But I think that regarding this year, an actionable item is to present information to the community about clarifying how the budget process works and how they need to think about that in a very succinct way, number one. And then marrying that with a lot of positive information about programs in the schools that are going on right now that might not be there or are at risk. And and the third thing I think that's critical right now is asking the community to have the input as to what they think possible solutions might be. I don't think that's our call. I think we need to throw it out there and give them what they need to make the decision and listen to them. And I think those would be incredibly actionable if we stuck to those three things.
Barb, I love that. And I think we could do like boom, 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 January, February, March. So like January, our virtual roundtable could be, this is how the sausage gets made. Like, make your favorite sausage dish and come talk to us about school district funding in Vermont. We'll talk you through all the questions that you have. And then February could be, we want to hear your ideas. So talk to us about your ideas for like how you're feeling and interacting with the budget. And maybe March is like, this is how we move forward.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in really quickly, and I'm really fearful. I think we need to reverse and talk about the positive things first. And the reasoning is
Yes.
the superintendent's going to have a timeline. If he's going to do things to meet the needs of the budget, he's going to do them, and he's going to plan to do them earlier than later because he has to get those contracts out.
Love it. Yes, Nancy.
Well, if we're getting down to, the conversation has got me thinking about what happened at the last regular board meeting. So Patrick presented the slides, and at the end of that, it was clear that that potential reductions in force, he listed them. But it wasn't until the co-chair of the Teachers Association got up and spoke that it was clear that the implications of that list were a bit more clear. So what I learned from her, not from the slides, is that the reduction, one of the reductions in force at Mount Abraham meant that beginning next year, second language would not be taught in 7th grade, might not be taught in middle school, and might not be able to start at all until 9th grade. That was one thing I learned. And the other thing I learned was that 2 of the classroom positions that were potential reductions in force were in classroom teachers' positions at Robinson School. And there may have been more that she made clear, but I mean, and it was at that point, I think it was toward the end of that meeting that the board said to Patrick, go back and take a look at positions in the superintendent's office to see if you can take some cuts there instead of all of these cuts in kid-facing positions. So anyway, I think that if we're going to be talking about the budget and we're going to be asking people what they think about it, we need to be pretty clearer than the slides are about
Agreed.
what the implications are of, we need to be very clear that it's early yet and the sands could shift and lots could change. But if we want to know what people think, we need to be someone needs to be very clear about what the implications are. And the slides don't do that. The co-chair of the Teachers Association made it much clearer.
I
Do you know
thought Sarah
what I
did a
mean?
really nice job.
Does that-
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just add that some of it was wrong.
Some of what she said was not correct.
Absolutely was wrong. Yeah. So
What parts were
That's-
wrong, Beth?
I don't, yeah, I'll tell you in a different conversation, but there was parts that were wrong. Staffing, 2 special education openings at the high school was not accurate. So it was just, yeah.
So, right,
And
so,
I just wanted to go back to like when I said action, I was thinking like, so what we heard at one of our roundtables was central office. So the action Meredith took was she brought that to our superintendent, asked him to gather some information about who's at central office, like the actual facts, based on what we learned at the roundtable. That's the kind of action I'm talking about. Like we're responding and getting information for the community. And I think that is so important. And I kind of wish that we shared that more at that meeting, at the board meeting. But I think that's what we need. That's what I meant by the action. Like I heard 6% is not enough. Like I think that's important to say that this is what some of the community is saying. We don't have a solution, but I wonder how many other people are like, yeah, and can we do this or this or this? So I guess that's what I was just trying to clarify when you said I don't understand what Beth is saying. I think taking what we're hearing during these roundtables and bringing them forth to our board and our community and not being afraid to like, yeah, 6% is not enough, or who is in central office? Do we really need these positions? You know, and having those conversations and making sure we have the facts.
but Beth, how do we do that when it might be 1 or 2 people who said this or that? You know, I
Yeah.
mean, it's,
Yeah.
you know, it's so, it's anecdotal. It's not
Mhm.
really data that should drive the decision. I mean, unless we've really done a survey and gotten a response rate that's, that you could kind of take to the bank and all of that. I mean, it's anecdotal. I mean, anybody can show up and say anything. And I mean, how do we decide what should be brought to the board and what shouldn't? I mean, a narrative can be created that the towns don't think this much cutting is enough, but I don't think anybody knows that. I mean, we might hear that here, we might hear it there, and then there might be people who say, I think we should not be cutting this much because of the staffing changes the implications of, I mean, I don't know how we get it. I don't know how we get information that is actionable to the board because we don't have it.
Right. I guess just compiling all the information and looking for commonalities, threads. But I think everyone at the roundtable is important and how we synthesize how we share it. That is a good point. But why are we having the roundtables if we're not doing anything with the information? I guess is my thought. I don't want to just keep talking about I want to do something with what the community is saying. It's my
What if at the end of,
eagerness.
oh, sorry, Barb, you've had your hand up for a long time.
Oh, so I just wonder if this is the Facebook forum now. We take those thoughts, we say, here's a question we heard at the round table. We researched it. Here's the answer. And then generates maybe more community thought, maybe not, but we could take those questions. Maybe it doesn't have to go to the board. Maybe if it's important enough, it will tear its way up to the board recognition, not through Facebook, that we will bring it, but at least the research, the actionable piece will have happened. The answer will get to those who need it, and then possibly go forward.
I love that. And I think in addition, if we're hearing something over and over and over again in our roundtables, then we as a committee can say, we need to take an action step on this. So let's bring this up at the next board meeting. Maybe.
The other tricky thing about all this is that it might look like 6% now, but it's not going to look like, it could easily not be 6% tomorrow. There's so many things that are, there's this commission, and the commission's going to make recommendation to the legislature, and the legislature knows it needs to do something, and they're telling the governor he's got to do it. And, all of that is really, it's still at the fiction stage, really, at this point. So to talk about 6% leads people to believe that it's more true than it is, that it's more settled than it is. That's also, it's one of the tricky parts of this.
And I think what we've seen from the past couple of elections is that people vote with their feelings more than they vote based on fact. I mean, we can look at what happened in our own budget election in this spring. So yeah, I think managing people's feelings is just as important as managing the dissemination of facts.
So, and here's I think that's really true. And here's an example of it that I think the board has already picked up on, which is it is kind of about the number and the cost. Hi, pup. It is kind of about the numbers and the cost, but in the end, if the big cuts only come from children-facing staff and not from the superintendent's office, even people will be mad enough about that to vote no on the budget. And it may not be logical, but it's really real. And I'm sure that's not the only example of that kind of gut voting, but it's really real.
So where do we go from here?
I don't know. I don't know.
Can we agree on a possible first date for the next virtual roundtable? Whether, I think the questions I have are whether it would be January or February. And I think we somewhat agreed on the topic, right?
Well, Kristen came back with really good information, right, from the meeting today, from the meeting with the select board. And Kristen, you and Brad are going to push the idea that the board members should be having regular meetings with their select boards from now until, at least until the budget passes. Yeah?
Yeah, even if it's not, regular meetings, not like every month, but at least I think having a check-in at least once a month with the select board, and then also providing, communication to them, for their agendas.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a really important place to start. And even, I'm just sort of thinking out loud, Brad and I didn't have a chance to debrief. He ran home to get on his, finance committee meeting and me for this one. But I'm gonna suggest that, after our next business meeting, after we're presented with the next iteration of the budget, that iteration of the budget gets shared with our select boards, just so that they're in the know of what the changes, what changes
Here's what's
happen.
different, right?
Yeah.
Here's what's different.
Yeah.
So that piece looks solid if you can talk the rest of the board into doing that in their own towns.
Yep.
Um,
I'm sold.
I think the Facebook page, we know what we need to do to at least design the structure, figure out the structure, and then pitch that to the board. Probably with some ideas about content,
Mm-hmm.
but that can be mirrored, at least for now, by what Kristen is saying, what Kristen and Brad say about what the select board wants. That is, we can post the slideshow, we can pose questions and invite people to respond. So, we can focus it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And we can do some kind of FAQ about, why could it be that we're cutting this much and our taxes are going up, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And then, so those pieces will work. And a virtual roundtable, I think, be interesting to think about the timing of that and what the focus should be. Maybe it's all the same content for now. But again, if there's any way, I mean, do you think the superintendent could, do you think there's a way? I bet there is a way. Do you think a way to try to explain some key features of what the school district is trying to do for kids with this budget? And maybe it's the school district as a whole, and maybe it's also by school. At Robinson School, we're thinking we're gonna move to some multi-age classes to make the groups more right-sized. And we're going to try to do it, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what it would be, but so people get a sense of what the dollars are gonna go for. I mean, I wonder if it's possible to get that, just to craft that information in a way that's, not 20 pages or.
Yeah,
don't know.
no, I like that. Yeah. I know, because we often talk about we're gonna increase our class sizes because the rest of the nation has that, like Vermont's been so privileged to have small class sizes, blah, blah, blah. So we come in from the deficit often, and I feel like we need to come in from this is what we're doing for our kids, and not with less, but how we're doing it. Yeah, no, that's a great idea. I love that.
And I mean, I'm not saying that this is what I personally believe or I personally agree with this, but looking at the class sizes as an example, there is research to show that in some instances, class sizes that are closer to 18 to 22 can actually have positive outcomes on students, social, emotionally, and being able to have peer-to-peer learning. So I think having a meeting like that where we can talk about this is with our new budget and with what we're proposing, these are all the great things that are going to happen for our kids. I think that's great messaging and great.
And partly, and isn't it partly about here's what we're doing to try to compensate for what might look like disadvantages to
Yes.
having to cut. I mean, you got to wonder, if you can't take a second language till 9th grade, what could you do? My thoughts have gone toward, Babbel or the online
Duolingo. And
Duolingo.
yep.
Right.
So thinking about our next virtual roundtable, I think it could be really powerful if we schedule one a month. And maybe it's, so if we're, maybe it's the second Thursday. So we're meeting on the Tuesday. And then the second Thursday, we have our virtual roundtable, and then the board meeting is the next week. And maybe our first topic is, if Patrick is amenable to it, we ask Patrick to come and present to our community on this is how we're going to do more with less, and this is how, not more with less, but these are all the good things that we're going to be doing for our kids next year. And then maybe at our January meeting, we go from there.
So
I do,
a presentation, but then a conversation, right?
Yes,
Q&A.
like an FAQ with Patrick,
Yeah.
if you want
And I
to.
do think we're polling the community for Up for Learning. And I do wonder, I don't know, the surveys are going out soon. And if we have an opportunity to get our hands on those results, that might be something that we could share at a roundtable as well with,
Yeah.
with opportunity for questions. So, yeah.
I love that. I think that's a great idea, Beth.
So Up for Learning is doing a survey, Beth? And
Yeah,
it's
they
about-
are. They are in the schools and we've already started it. So we were at one of the school plays. We had what is it called? The barcode you can put on your phone. Just basic, like 3 questions. I forget what they are, but real simple questions, and people are responding. We're doing it in our schools. We're doing it with our students, teachers, parents, community. So it's a big survey going out. We've got even pictures that kids can draw, like what do they want their school to look like? So we're going all the way to the pre-K. So it's going to be pretty powerful. And then Up for Learning is going to compile all the survey and then share out.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it. So maybe
So
in the
there's a
immediate-
piece of community engagement right there, and we didn't even have to do anything.
Yeah, and budget's not mentioned. It has nothing to do with money. you
Yeah,
know?
cool.
Nothing. So it might be that
Must be a
warmer.
great relief to you.
Yeah. So we could do that maybe in one of our, the February, March. I don't know.
I
I'll
love
find out when
that.
it's all the information is going to be compiled.
Would January 16th be a date that works for our next virtual roundtable? (6:30 to 8, just like, or no, I think we did 7 to 8:30 last time. Maybe we do 7 to 8:30 again.
I will be away, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't.
I have a Hannaford school board meeting.
I can definitely run it solo, but I don't want to like compete with other things that the district is doing. Like I know last time we were up against parent-teacher conferences, so.
Well, I also think it helps to have a person in each of the breakout groups who
Mhm.
can take enough notes to report back to the whole group, the
Mhm.
way
Agreed.
we did. And sometimes that falls into place naturally, and sometimes it doesn't.
What about
Wednesday the 15th.
Wednesday the 15th? Does that work? No?
No?
What about Thursday the 30th? No, but that's after the board meeting. Okay. Monday the 13th.
I have negotiations. But was,
Okay.
was the Wednesday, that was a no?
Wednesday the 15th. Barb said no. Does
Well,
everybody
I
else?
mean, yeah, again, you could go ahead and do it without me. I'm traveling that day, so I wouldn't be able to get on remotely. But
Oh, gosh, thank you for mentioning that. That whole week I am also traveling for work. Okay, what about the following week, the week of January 20th? How does Wednesday, the 22nd look for everybody?
That's
Yep.
good for
Yeah,
me.
I could do that.
Okay, so Wednesday, the 22nd from 7 to 8:30. I can lead it again, if you all want me to. I'm happy to share the love if somebody else wants to lead. And why don't we tentatively call that FAQ with the superintendent, and I can own talking to Patrick about it and seeing what he thinks,
And that he's available. So
and that
we'll
he's
wait.
available.
Yeah. And we'll, so we would be meeting January 8th, first Wednesday of the month,
Yep.
or it's second Wednesday, but you know. that-
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good, thank you. And I, kind of just like, what, am glad that what I guess I just want to go back to that maybe if we hear it from only one or two people, I think that like right here, all of the one peoples in this room have a voice that would be reflected many times over were we to have feedback from every single person. We have people, you know, we bring up programming, we bring up equity, we bring up all of the different things in this group. I'm really excited about this group, and I'm looking forward to the virtual roundtables, and creating that safe space to have the hard conversations is really important. And I look forward to going into these knowing what our action steps will be that we can utilize the Facebook page once we figure this out, and utilize our time best representing our communities when we sit at the board table. So I think these are going to serve us very well, having these conversations. Thank you. Anyone have anything else before we adjourn, or planning or upcoming agenda items that we haven't covered already?
Well, first of all, thank you, Liz, for taking all those notes. I know there was a lot of discussion. I want to make sure that I have my homework right. I'm going to reach out to Patrick. Liz, I'll CC you. And then I'll also put together a proposal for our Facebook group that we'll discuss in our January meeting, and I'll have all my ducks in a row and quacking in harmony. Is there anything else that I'm missing for homework?
Are we not gonna do front porch forum? Because we might miss some people if we
Yeah.
do
Yes.
just Facebook. Okay, we're gonna continue front porch forum.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So Meredith, when you reach out to Patrick, if you have a way, I bet you, if you can envision what few questions we might pose to people in that virtual roundtable on the 22nd, that they would be, if you can give a picture of that to him with some sample questions, I think that will help him get a sense of the idea that he's presenting, but a big part of the meeting is the conversation that ensues afterwards.
I love that. So I think as a structure, we'll do our opener, then Patrick can present for 15 to 20 minutes. Maybe he can start by asking some questions, and then the community can have the opportunity to ask him questions.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we're going to try to structure the breakout groups and let him know what the questions are ahead of time, it might be good for people to know what those questions are going to be before he starts to talk. So they can be thinking about the questions in relation to what he has to say.
You are so good at phrasing questions. Do you have any ideas?
I'll put some thought into that. I mean, I'm just off the top of my head, what have you heard tonight that makes you excited about the coming school year? What have you heard tonight that looks like what challenges or what new ideas have been raised for you? Some things along those
I
lines.
love that. I'm writing that down right now. Barb?
Yeah, I love all that. I do think that we need to put a little more thought into getting people to that round table. I do agree, Beth, that we're seeing the same faces. And I wonder if as a start, we could invite our select boards to attend.
Yes. That's genius. Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay,
How do we do that?
all right, cool.
But like logistically, how do we
So
how
I
do we do
just,
that?
Send them an
I-
email.
Yeah,
Yeah, I send an email to the chair and CC the rest of the group. I've done that for a lot of major events. I don't know, I think it also depends on the select, so like a lot of our things are, yeah, it's just whether or not they're already meeting.
is that the
And I think,
20 oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say that I would say that I'm with the other idea. Definitely invite for sure, but also going to them seems to be a lot more meaningful for them than, or yeah. So anyways, go ahead.
Yeah,
Will
Liz, I-
the budget be settled by the 22nd? Maybe. I'm just
I don't know.
thinking about the timing, guys, and I know we're out of time here, but you know, the vote is until March. So doing this in February after the warning is set. I mean, there, you know, if we do it, January 22nd isn't going to be enough time for the public input to make a difference in what the warning says. So would it, I just wonder about whether doing it at the end of I mean,
Maybe
just-
we table a January virtual roundtable and talk more about it on our January 8th meeting and do something in February instead.
I think that's a possibility.
could you
I mean,
clarify? I'm not quite sure. Could you just, your rationale one more time, please?
well, so the warning, the budget won't be set, what the budget is and what the tax rate, projected tax rate is, tax rates are, will be, you know, the legislature goes into session. That's going to be the first thing at the beginning of January. It's the first thing they're going to work on. But chances are nothing's going to be complete. The warning has to be done by the end of January. It has to be set, even if things change later, that warning has to be set. And so it won't be until the very end, I think the very end of January or close to it, that the sifting sands will have mostly settled. And so, we have until the beginning of March, whenever town meeting is, before the vote takes place. So really, you've got the whole month of February to design something that's based on the most settled figures you can get.
Alternatively, we could just do what we did last time. What are our schools doing well and where are the opportunities for growth in our schools? And we can frame it as we're halfway through the school year. We want to revisit this discussion
Yep,
and just do that and maybe get a little more aggressive in our marketing so we can get more people to show up. And then that'll
Yeah.
give us some more ammunition that we can bring to the board at the next board meeting, but that way it's low pressure, something we've already done, and just gets us the opportunity to talk with our community members more, which I think is always a win.
mm-hmm. I don't know, what does everybody think?
I think we should
know-
ask Patrick, because I know he talks a lot about the future, and knowing that, you know, the budget's going to continue to be cut probably, and I think he wants us to focus more on the future. But I wonder also if we can get him to speak in January about the process, the sausage making, like how do you decide who goes and who stays? And maybe the community needs to hear that.
Yeah,
And he would, you know, he's the one that creates that, and we have our formulas, and maybe that's an idea.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, we'd have to see if he's available, but I think that would go a long ways. That there
And-
is, it's
and,
not
es-
just.
and
local.
especially especially the, so yeah. How to include some of the good news in that meeting, and also a virtual roundtable in February.
I think Patrick is just such a phenomenal public speaker and a
Yes.
phenomenal communicator. And I don't think I've ever had a conversation with him where he doesn't naturally highlight the great things that our schools are doing. So I think by virtue of having him there, I think the good news will automatically come up. So maybe January 22nd is our sausage with the school board meeting.
Yeah.
And if everybody's okay with that, I'm okay to talk to him, see if he's available, and we can go from there.
You can help him, we can help him shape it as we get closer to
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Is it okay that I'm leading this? Everybody is okay with me doing this? I'm not being, my
No.
manager tells me I'm too pushy, so I'm just making sure.
No, you're perfect.
Fire that manager, fire that manager.
I'll hire you.
Get
Thanks,
that
guys.
person gone.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Good night.